Welcome into the Arkansas Sports Network's Hometown Sports Football Preview, proudly presented by Arkansas Tech University, D3 Auto Sales, and Metcalf Trucking and Trailer Repair. Today we sit down with the head coach of the Harding Academy Wildcats, Neil Evans. This Pigskin Preview is sponsored by First Community Bank.
Welcome back into the Hometown Sports Arkansas Football Preview, and this time I've got Harding Academy coach Neil Evans. Coach, I appreciate you joining me here as we talk about Harding Academy football.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Coach, you guys finished in the 4A championship again last year. By equity points, you guys move up into 5A. Let's talk a little bit about the challenge that you see as you move up classifications.
Yeah, so obviously we've not played a game yet. So a little bit of that is speculation. But I think to me the biggest gap is what's in the middle. And I think your middle of the road teams in 5A seem to be significantly better in every measurable than maybe the middle of the road 4A teams. When you look at the very top, I think you can probably omit Parkview from the top. But, when you look at the other top teams in 5A, and then you look at the top teams that have historically been there in 4A. So, when you look at Warren, when you look at historically in Nashville, when you look at, the top teams of Rivercrest, Elkins last year, the very top of 4A doesn't seem to be that substantially different than the top of 5A. But I think where maybe the gap is in the middle. And so I think that's where we will feel the effects of that, having to be able to turn around and, play a big game and then have to turn around and bring it again. And so I think that's where it is. And so depth becomes an issue, the wear and tear on a complete season, the way that we have to be aware in practice, of the practice volume, of the workout volume. We just have to be very much in tune, just because I do think the wear and tear is going to be more.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said there. I think you're spot on, especially when you talk about the middle of the conferences. You definitely have more of a challenge, I believe, in the middle when you talk about those 3, 4, 5, and 6 places there in the conference. Well, for us especially, we have to talk about our MVP award that we've given out. And last year, Owen Miller was the recipient of that. You bring him back, 49 touchdowns to 1 interception. Tell me what you're seeing out of Owen, and tell me what you're seeing out of the rest of the guys so far this year.
Yeah, so Owen looks like you would think he would look, a 3-year starter, a 2-time All-State guy. I think for him, his game it's not maxed out, but, to go, to think about where he was just in terms of the measurables on the field at the end of the year last year, and then to see where he is now, not a huge difference. Ball still comes out of his hand the same, his mobility is still the same. But I think what you see the difference in maturity. I think you see the difference in the response when things go negatively. He was voted a team captain by his teammates, which, not only signifies the way he plays on the field, but it also signifies the way that they kind of rally around him as a guy in the locker room that they look to. The rest of the team, he's got some weapons around him. Indy McGalliard comes back is probably his favorite target, 3-year starter on the outside at receiver. Isaac Baker's a 3-year starter coming back at running back. And then we've got another guy named Eli Baker that played and started in 7 games last year and just did a marvelous job. He's a senior. And so those 3 guys together have had a lot of time together. And so they look like you would think they would look right now, just very comfortable in the system, very comfortable in what it takes to win, upholding the standard, how we go about our business. Those guys uphold it. And I think our offensive line is a place where we feel really good about some things. We've got, we bring back what I would say 4.5 starters. So we lost a guy last year to an ACL injury, week 9, and brought in another guy. And so if you look at it like that, we have 4.5 starters back. And so we've got 1 sophomore on the offensive line at right tackle who's really, really athletic, really explosive, but he's going to continue to get better as the game goes on, as the season goes on, more what I meant to say, but and Caleb Jeffrey. But that group is anchored by Josh Llewellyn, who's a 4-year starter. And I've told other people this. I think he's probably the best offensive lineman we've had in the history of our school. I mean, he's elite. He's very, very, very good. Defensively, our front seven's the strength of that side. We bring back 5 out of 7 of those guys, and 5 out of 7 are seniors, and they look like it. Kanan Harris and Brody Myers both, anchor those spots on the defensive line, and then we bring back 3 senior linebackers: Cole Griffin, Trenton Hall, and Zane Green. And Zane didn't start last year, but he played a lot of reps, and so those 3 guys have just looked tremendous so far. And then the back end is a place that we kind of was up in the air just because we were only brought back 1 starter. But if you would have told me in May that our secondary would look like they look right now, I would have turned a backflip, which is impossible. But just really, really pleased with them. We're very athletic and long. So Wyatt Simmons' brother, Tanner Simmons, has moved to safety. He's kind of a natural linebacker, but because we have some linebacker depth, we moved him to safety. And so we're 6'2" at both safety spots right now. So wow. Those guys really passed the eye test. Very, very physical, very, very, very good players. We got 2 really good safeties right now. And our corners, we feel really good about it. We're young there, but we've got a kid named Rhett Watson that's a sophomore, really quiet kid, but kind of got a unique frame. He's really long-armed, really loose hips, he's kind of lanky. And so he's deceptively fast. So he's had some things in practice where he's made plays on some balls that we're like, how did he do that? Right. Because when you just look at him, he's underwhelming, but then when he goes to make a play, he looks so good. And so we feel good. I'm a little concerned about some depth in some spots, but I think every coach in the country is.
Right, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the 5A East that you're going into. One opponent that you are familiar with is Valley View. You guys, and Valley View probably going to be there at the top of the conference, kind of fighting it out. Talk about some of the other teams along with Valley View.
Yeah. So again, because we're new, we don't know. We've not played these people in junior high games, and so a little bit of my perception of who they're going to be is skewed just because I've not watched them. So I do know this. I do know there's a bunch of household names in there, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to live in Arkansas very long to know that Wynn has played some significant games late in the year. And you don't have to know much to know Coach Toddy has won a lot of football games in his career. And so those 2 things alone speak for themselves. And then you look at Batesville, and I know that they've been somewhat down, but those guys expect to win, and they're still playing a very, very physical brand of football. It means something to them. It means something to the community. And Nettleton has continued to remain very, very consistent They are. When I look at them in Valley View, I don't know what their records between the two of them have been, but they're just remarkably consistent. They're always in the hunt. They're always playing in significant games. And so I think that speaks volumes as well. And then I think a lot of people believe that Brooklyn has a very good team. And, I'm familiar with Coach Hinesley from his time at Newport and the way that they play, the physicality they play with, the edge that they play with on defense. And so, I don't know how the rest of the state feels about the conference. But I know that there are plenty of teams that have captured our attention.
Again, going back to what we had talked about before, you're talking about deeper conferences. You're talking about more depth along especially the big guys. Those are a really, really big difference, in my opinion, in the 5A and the 4A is the fact that you've got more depth in the lines, both offensively and defensively. And we know that's where it starts. So let's talk about your schedule a little bit. Talk about who you're playing this year.
Yeah. So non-conferences, this is the best non-conference schedule we've ever had, and it's not even close. In 2 weeks, we go to Marion, who's, loaded. Very, very good football team. We go to CAC the next week. And I know that they've had some people leave them and different things happen. But those guys were in the quarterfinals last year, and we will go to their place, and they'll very much be ready to play. And then we play one of the best teams in the state in Benton, and we host them. And so we think it's going to be good for us. We do. It's a very, very terrible feeling to get to a game late in the year and feel like you as a team and you as a coaching staff have not put your guys in a position to figure out how to play in a big game. And you have to run the risk of losing those games and feeling the sting of that now, as opposed to feeling really good early and getting a false idea of who you are, what you need to work on, and then scramble at the end and wish you would have done more. And so it will be a huge, huge challenge for us those 3 weeks, and making sure we get out of there healthy and learn from it, regardless of whatever the score might be. And certainly we're going to go in and give it every single ounce of everything we have, and go in there ready to compete. But if the only objective and the only lesson that can be learned is, if the scoreboard happens to be in our favor, then we've done a really poor job of doing our jobs as coaches. So. Yeah.
It's a great schedule. And then you've got your 5A East schedule as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's obvious. And so anyway, well, final question here. I've ended up with basically everybody I've interviewed. It will be a successful season at Harding Academy if?
At the end of the year, whenever that may be, when every single person that was involved with this season can all look the other person in the eye and said, I did everything I could do to help the person next to me have the best experience they could possibly have.
And that might be the best answer we've had so far. All right, Coach, I appreciate you joining me here on the Hometown Sports Arkansas Football Preview. And again, you can catch all of this content throughout the state of Arkansas on Facebook and on YouTube. Also, we want to remind you that we will be hosting the ASN Classic with Elkins and Warren at Arkansas Tech University on September the 13th. You can buy tickets now for that one. Coach, again, thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks again for joining us on the Arkansas Sports Network's Hometown Sports Football Preview. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Arkansas Sports Network on YouTube to catch more previews and all the latest updates on your favorite teams.